I saw this Common Core survey and I wanted to go over it with y'all. I reckon the students should be exposed to the Constitution before being asked to do this survey with their folks. A lot of these questions are designed to shape the opinions of students and give them preconceived notions about the role of government and what our rights are before even being exposed to the Constitution. I say exposed to the Constitution as opposed to being educated on the Constitution because I wouldn't trust these liberal teachers to teach it. If students were actually encouraged to examine the Constitution, there would be no point of this survey.
I think what's happening. Propaganda.
First question. Government should encourage rather than restrict prayer in the public schools, yes or no? Encourage and mandate are two different things. Encouragement of prayer ain't a bad idea because time in prayer minimizes the time kids could take the opportunity to get knocked up, toked up, beat up, or shot up, which seems to happen a little bit too much since prayer's been kicked to the curb. Encouraging prayer isn't a bad thing. Making it a law is. So the question is loaded like a diaper. Next question. Government has an obligation to regulate businesses in order to preserve the environment for future generations. Man, do not try to sell me on your liberal environmentalist agenda by pretending to be concerned about future generations. You do not care about future generations. If you do not see that the child in the womb that has been conceived, mind you, as even a potential human being, how can you possibly see a potential future of human beings that haven't even been conceived yet? You see how full of it y'all are? Liberals are the ones who often say we have a population problem, yet want to act like they're all about more generations coming. So as you can see, the question is already gearing the students to give the government more power because the question includes the sentimental element of saving the planet. We have to protect the earth. Yes, give the government more power to protect the earth. Yes, give the government more power. These people live a huge lie when they say power to the people. What they really mean, whether they know it or not, is more power to the state. The Constitution does have a commerce clause in it, yes. And scholars have beat the snot out of interpreting it. I offer this. Just like with all the Constitution, you can either interpret it liberally or you can interpret it conservatively. If you interpret it liberally, then you will take the liberty of imposing a liberal amount of regulations, and the businesses will suffer. And when people have a hard time making ends meet, trust me, they don't care about the environment that much. And when more people are having a hard time making ends meet, the less they'll care about the environment. And these places are mostly run by Democrats, the so-called champions for the environment. Frisco, Chicago, New York, LA are all run by these environmentalist liberals. And these cities have some of the filthiest areas and all think it's the next person, not themselves. These areas are populated with people having a hard time making ends meet. And a big part of that is because of the liberal amount of regulations that hurt hiring power. However, if one interprets the Commerce Clause conservatively, then the regulations will be imposed conservatively and lets the better agent regulate commerce, that better agent being the free market. Next question, and this one's a race baiter. Affirmative action programs deny equality of opportunity to whites in hiring, yes or no? You know you better answer no on this one. You're only supposed to see whites as unfairly privileged and non-whites as victims, like a good liberal. Affirmative action is kind of like Common Core. Outcome isn't really what's important, as long as the formula looks right. And we're going to force these numbers or these quotas in a convoluted arrangement and feel good about ourselves regardless of the results. Next question. Federal government should provide funding to improve public schools and make college possible for more young adults. Yes or no? This is just the federal government trying to justify taxing people more under the guise of education. And education is not getting better for it. It is not the federal government's job to fund schools in each state. And if education is so important, then each community should be doing what they can on a local level to make sure their education is excellent for their kids, instead of putting that burden on someone else to pay for some federal cookie-cutter communist curriculum. Next question. The individual is basically responsible for his own well-being, so the government should make welfare recipients go to work. Yes or no? Okay. Just because we acknowledge that the individual is responsible for their well-being, as the individual has the right to pursue happiness, and the Declaration of Independence doesn't say we have the right to be issued happiness, it says we have the right to pursue it. If you want things that make you happy, you have to work at it. The next part of that question is, so the government should make welfare recipients go to work, yes or no? The liberals who make up these questions will assume that a conservative will support that idea. Again, liberals are wrong. Conservatives will tell you flat out, it is not the government's job to make you work. You know what governments do make people work? Those socialist and communistic countries you liberals want, that end up with a wall around it to keep people in it to work and feed the state. Next question. Federal government should limit its spending so that individuals enjoy the maximum freedom of choice spending their income. Yes or no? Hey, if y'all are gonna make mention of limiting spending, why not include limiting income taxes and limiting borrowing? Because it's sure hard to spend our own income as we choose when the government assumes it's theirs. Liberals know this and believe that all wealth earned is obliged to the government for the public good, of course. But why would they pose the question like this? Because the question isn't about what the government spends, and it isn't about what you spend. The question is to program students to associate the term choice with a positive view. The choice to spend money is awesome. Students love spending money. Chances are, many of you have dipped into your parents' wallet or purse back in the day just so you could spend that money on something. Choice is associated with something awesome, which means freedom to choose to have an abortion must rock too. Oh, come on, Zoe. Women don't celebrate abortion the way you make them out. It's a very serious issue. Really? Because these women seem to be in a pretty festive state over the idea of being free to choose to abort children. Hey, I'm not seeing domineering hostile Christian men in this video. But do you think these women would be able to show up to desecrate a mosque and do this to Muslim men who stood in their way? I doubt it. I reckon liberals would be willing to bring that red pencil back to grade my paper if I were to fill out this survey. They'd be grading while ripping a hole in the paper with their extra sharpened red pencil. Next question. Free enterprise benefits the rich at the expense of the poor. Yes or no? You know you better answer yes on this one, or you're just a little capitalist pig. The question is designed to make conservatives look like aristocratic anarchists. Again, we're not opposed to regulation. Our interpretation and application of regulations is just conservative, which benefits the rich and the hopefully temporarily poor. and guards a better environment for the poor to work their way out of poverty. Now, this is why this premise of liberals is so wrong. It is very hard for rich people to make money off of people who don't have any. Businesses want people to have money. They want you to have jobs so you can make money. Then take that money and spend it so they can make more money. And invest that money into more jobs so more people can make money. And then spend it so the entrepreneur can make more money. The entrepreneur can't just rely on millionaires to buy their products. There's a lot more people in America making a 5-figure income who need to buy things too. And the business person wants to make things affordable to them. Economy 101. If you want to sell more products and make more money, charge less. But even that don't mean squat if people are too poor to buy your products. The rich wants the poor to make money and make it out of poverty. And the ones standing in the way of that are liberal Democrats who negatively affect the hiring power of people because Democrats are dependent on victims for their voter stock. By the way, you'll notice this questionnaire is liberal or conservative, not Democrat or Republican, because the Democrat Party is trying to throw off their rotten sin again. I told you, that's what they do. They're doing it right in front of you. Next question. Government should guarantee medical care for all citizens, yes or no? The questionnaire is pointless if you've read the Constitution, and of course, the people who make this test just want you to answer yes like a good prospective liberal, without consideration of what the Constitution says. Government's job is to protect us, not provide for us. The people are duped by the Affordable Care Act, which in itself is a lie. Take advertisements like Covered California that tell you if you can't afford the health care coverage the government is forcing you to buy, then you can get financial assistance. If the government is making health care so affordable, why would people need financial assistance to buy it? And where does the money for this financial assistance come from? The people. The people are being forced to give financial assistance to pay for someone else's coverage that they have to buy, and they have to choose from the roster of government selection. And you liberals try to sell us on the idea that this isn't socialized health care, even though you think socialized health care is the better model. After all, we should be like Europe. Yet on the other hand, a lot of these same liberals who think that want an exemption. Hey, can I let y'all in on a little secret? It's socialized health care. Next question. The Supreme Court should reverse its decision to legalize abortions in order to protect the right to life for the fetus. Yes or no? Here's an easy way to find out who's who, ain't it? Now, I notice with all these questions, they use the term government. The government should do this, or the government should do that. But out of 18 questions that imply what the government should or should not do, this question is the only one that says the Supreme Court. I reckon it's because liberals want you to believe that the Supreme Court is the only branch that has the power concerning this issue. I think it's sad that we haven't had a president with enough meat and potatoes to say, hold up, judicial branch, you don't have the final say on this. I'm the chief law enforcement officer of the United States, and the supreme law of the land written in the Constitution says no person shall be deprived of their life without due process of law. So I'm telling you that you have broken the law. You have violated the Constitution, and that you ruled to make laws that protect people who want to deprive persons of life without due process, and did so by ruling against the child's personhood. Y'all really think that power alone should belong to the Supreme Court? Let me ask it to you like this. You think all that power should have belonged to the Supreme Court in deciding that blacks aren't persons and do not qualify for the same protections of the Constitution? Lincoln, the Republican, didn't think the Supreme Court should have either. And he remembered that he was the chief law enforcement officer of the United States and put the boots to those who broke the law concerning the depriving of liberty. But Lincoln was a war criminal who violated the rights of shut up. Lincoln said straight up, those who deny freedom to others deserve it not for themselves, and under a just God cannot long retain it. In other words, I reckon Lincoln was saying, if you deprive others of their rights, then I'll ignore yours. Now, all right, let's continue with the survey. Are you feeling it? Are you feeling the Common Core fever? Next question. The federal government should guarantee the rights of homosexuals, yes or no? So now it's a federal issue, I'm sorry, because I recall hearing liberals saying this was a states' rights issue. They really want to make a federal issue out of this. Like they say they won't be forcing the church to marry them. I assure you, if we're forced to endorse same-sex marriage, discrimination charges will be brought against churches who won't host the service. The state will violate the first right of the First Amendment, free religious exercise. Now, homosexuals are people and deserve and should be guaranteed the same rights, of course, but nobody deserves to have their desires met at the forced expense of somebody else. Next question. Federal law effectively guarantees the rights of women and makes passages of the Equal Rights Amendment unnecessary. Yes or no? Well, you know how much we Republicans hate the 14th Amendment, even though Republicans are the ones who voted for it. But again, you better put a check mark to agree with this. The Equal Protection Clause is like the holy grail of self-righteousness to a Democrat. But let's be clear, Democrats aren't responsible for the Equal Protection Clause. Democrats are the reason why the Equal Protection Clause was made. While the Democrats pander and slither up to women to advance their agenda, the very same way that Satan pandered and slithered up to Eve to advance his, equal protection really doesn't mean squat to Democrats, because if it did, they'd stand up for equal protections for kids in utero. We never should have needed a 14th Amendment, because the Constitution already protects the rights of all persons. It's Democrats who were so bad about how liberal they were with twisting the Constitution that we ended up with an amendment to have to clarify the fact that all persons get equal protection. Next question. Federal government has an obligation to guarantee full employment. Yes or no? Obviously, these teachers think so. That's why they have tenure. Next question in the next donation. All right, welcome back. Let's keep trucking with the Common Core survey. Next question. The federal government should take any steps necessary to eliminate discrimination. Yes or no? You better check this one too. You have to be under the impression that government is the answer. Don't dare tell the individual that the responsibility to not be bigoted and discriminatory should be on them. Government has to make you not discriminate, and you're not to rely on your own discernment. It's better when left to the government. Next question. Government should uphold the morals of the past. Yes or no? Well, what morals are you talking about? According to you liberals, America didn't have any. It was an Indian killing, slave trading, women oppressing, land raping, species endangering cesspool. But the moral aspect of America that put an end to such evils were Christians that had a conservative view of the Bible, in contrast to those who took liberties with the Bible and used it to justify the evils they did. Next question. Government must provide a sort of insurance against catastrophic illnesses and unemployment. Yes or no? Answer yes to this one, so you can be one of the liberal cool kids. It doesn't look like liberals have made up their minds on this. They say that people should have health insurance in the event of a catastrophic illness. Yet are wanting people to use the insurance they're forcing us to buy to pay for visits and checkups and whatnot, like a guy visiting a doctor for a mammogram. However, I reckon if a guy actually needed a mammogram, that would be catastrophic in itself. Next question. Government should not try to manipulate the social values of the citizenry. Yes or no? If the so-called educators who administered this test really believed that, they wouldn't have administered this test. They do believe government should manipulate the people, and these educators are agents of social engineering. And if you agree that the government should not try to manipulate the social values of the citizenry, then you'll be one of those that they'll be wanting to have a little talk with for re-education and reconditioning. Next question. The government should be less concerned about the rights of the accused and more concerned about law and order. Yeah, here's another one of those questions that's going to easily identify one of those right-wingers. They'll totally agree that the accused have no rights, and everything should be about law and order. The accused are innocent until proven guilty and still have their rights. Adhering to that in itself is an aspect of law and order. Y'all make up your mind. You want the government to be this big provider, yet you try to make government this fearful body of law and order that's going to keep its right-wing foot on people's necks. But the more you liberals try to make the government the big provider, the more laws and regulations the liberals are going to feel compelled to author, to have their nanny state. You know I'm telling you the truth, because liberals are always claiming how businesses need to be regulated and how we need more laws for this and that. Everyone is suspect to a liberal. That's why they make so many laws, because they know you're going to do something bad, so they make laws to keep you from doing an action you haven't even thought of yet. With liberals, everyone is a suspect, except for those who should be suspect, like their president. The guy's been lying to us the whole way, and liberals know it. But while everybody else is suspect, you got guys like this making excuses for the actual suspect.
Now, with President Obama, it is true. He should have been more forthright with how the Affordable Care Act was going to impact the country. But with that being said, all Americans know politicians lie. The question is, which lies can you live with? And time again, Americans have said we can deal with the lies that President Obama tells us because we believe in his heart he has the best interest for the American people. Every president is going to lie to you. Every politician is going to lie to you. The question is, which lies can you live with?
Next question. Government should stop being so permissive with student protesters. Yes or no? What kind of question is that? Government is supposed to be permissive with protesters. We have the right to protest. What the government is not supposed to be permissive of is protesters vandalizing and interfering with other people's rights. Now, these indoctrinators who call themselves educators who administer these tests want students to feel emboldened to protest because their protest is often more demand for more powers to the state. Now, finally, at the end of this survey, it asks what your political leaning is. Hey, shouldn't the teachers who administer this test identify themselves on the test too? Some may say no, because they don't want to affect the outcome of the survey. Hey, teachers are going to affect the outcome of the test anyway. Your kids will be indoctrinated accordingly. I'm Alfonso Rachel with Zonation, and I'm feeling less bad about the hooky I used to play in my school days.
The question is, which lies can you live with?
Hear the wind stop blowing, see the holes in the gun.